Hi guys, Phil McGilvray here, founder of Grandma's Jars and passionate budget coach. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 3 reasons why most budgets fail. So why do most household budgets fail? Most of us have tried budgeting at one point or another, and we sit down on a Friday night. We know that we need to budget because things aren't quite going right, and so what we try and do is we list all of our income, we list all of our expenses, we sit down and we cut down our expenses until we get to the point where we have a bit of a surplus. And that's absolutely the right place to start, but things don't always go to plan after that. So let's just have a chat about the 3 reasons that I see as a budget coach as to why our budgets fail. So here I've got them beautifully written on the board. I'm sorry if you can't read my handwriting. I'm not terribly good at writing on the board. But 3 reasons why most household budgets fail. The first one is that we do not include all of our expenses in the budget. And this is a real killer, and this is where most people fail. Because when we sit down and work out a budget, typically we want to do it quickly. We just want to get down, we want to get it together, and so we sit there brainstorming what all of our expenses are. We put them down, but we forget a whole lot of stuff. And there's a whole lot of things you just can't work out based on sitting down for an hour or so. It's easy to identify, what the car registration is. It's easy to identify what we're paying in rent or on our mortgage. It's easy to identify the utilities. But where we come unstuck is all those discretionary variable costs. So what do we spend on clothes? What do we spend on hobbies? What do we spend on sports? What do we spend on health? These are the things that we don't tend to include in our budget. And this is where we go wrong. The reality is, any expense that you think you are going to spend on in the next 12 months needs to be included in your budget. So you have to have it in there. The problem is if we're budgeting to all the big expenses and then, Christmas comes along and we haven't allocated to gifts, or we need to put new school uniforms on the kids or buy ourselves some new clothes, then if that's not in the budget, then every single time those things come up, then we go, where's this supposed to go? So it's really important from the very word go that you take the time to accurately identify what all of your expenses are. So this is the number 1 killer of a budget, is you don't do that to start with. Now, I understand that you're not going to be able to get every single expense. That's reality. My experience is that it's about 90 to 95% of expenses that we cannot anticipate based on what happened last year and based on what we know is going to happen this year. But there's always going to be that 5 to 10% of expenses we just can't anticipate. But let's start by getting it right first. Let's start by thoroughly understanding what our expenses will be by taking the time to do it properly. Now, on our website, and there's a link in our notes here, you can get our budget worksheets. You can download them. It's a big prompt list of all the sorts of expenses you have, and this will give you a really good start as to, what are all my expenses? The second thing that causes people to fail when they're budgeting is they do not calculate their budget shortfall. Now, a standard budget, what it will do is put aside 1/12 of all your future expenses so that when those expenses turn up, the money is sitting there to pay it. Now, you might not budget to a monthly cycle at the moment, so you might do it every pay. You might say, look, every pay, which is every week or every fortnight, I put aside X amount towards these future expenses. The problem is, those expenses aren't going to wait 12 months to get paid. So if I'm putting aside 1/12 every single month, then when that bill turns up in 6 months' time, I'm going to find that I am short the money I need to cover that expense. And this happens time and time again, is that we haven't given ourselves enough time to set aside money for the expenses. So when they do turn up, we find that we're short, and then we go, well, stupid budget, this just doesn't work, and we give up. The thing you need to do, in the same way we identify our expenses thoroughly at the start, is to identify, when are my expenses going to be due, and therefore how much do I actually have to save per pay between now and then to make it happen. So budget shortfall, you need to calculate that from the start, and again, on our website you can find worksheets that will actually help you calculate this. And in fact, we have that built into our Grandma's Jars budgeting application so that people can do that calculation and figure out, well, how much should I have set aside, so that they can put it into the equation from the word go. The last reason that people fail at budgeting is very simply, as I said before, we sit down at a moment of financial pressure and stress, we identify our income, we identify our expenses, and we go, yeah, that looks about right. But then we have no way of knowing, well, are we actually sticking to it? There's no way of actually saying, well, this is what we've allowed each month, and therefore this is what we spent, so this is how much we've got left. So this is really important. This is a huge part of the process, is being able to record your spending as and when it occurs, so that you know, well, are we tracking in line with what we said we would spend, and therefore are we keeping to the budget? So there you have it. There's the 3 reasons that most budgets fail. Now, having been budget coaching for 15 years, I can tell you that when I sit with most people, most of them have tried budgeting at some point in the past, and they've all failed, and most of the time it's because of one of these 3 reasons. So if you can start by going, okay, let's first take the time to really understand our expenses. What are they? When are they due? How frequently do they occur? If you can get those sorts of expenses sorted out straight away, if you can get those sorts of details sorted out straight away, it will make a really big difference. Make sure that you calculate your budget shortfall. Anticipate when those big expenses are coming, and make sure you're setting aside enough so that when they do arrive, you're ready for them. And being ready for them is winning half the battle. And then the last thing is, have a system that allows you to track your spending. And this is why we have our Grandma's Jars mobile apps, because it just allows people to record their expenses as and when they're out and about, so they know exactly where they're up to at any point in time. Okay, I hope that's been useful. These are 3 very real reasons why budgets fail. So if you can get these things sorted from the start, you're on the right track. Now, this is our passion. We love helping people take control of their finances, get out of debt, and build a strong financial future. So please subscribe to our channel. There's lots more videos coming like this. And yes, hopefully we can really help you take control.